sometimes I see people saying like, oh, this sport jiu-jitsu doesn't work on the street. You know, like it depends against who. Guys, one question that I get asked a lot by people who do jiu-jitsu, by people who doesn't do jiu-jitsu, by people who just started jiu-jitsu is if jiu-jitsu works on the street. And guys, I have a very good opinion on this, at least I think I do, and I would love to share with you guys. And anytime someone asks me if jiu-jitsu works on the street, I always try to break that down in two different phases here. So one is to define what is street, and the two is to define how do you do jiu-jitsu, okay? So first of all, like what do you mean with the street? When do you mean with the street? Is it a one-on-one fight? Is it a one-on-one fight against a person who has a weapon or firearm or a gun or a knife? Is it a fight on a bar or in a club, which could be more people involved? So first of all, I think we have to understand that, which type of streets we are talking about. We're talking about one-on-one, no arms, no firearms, no guns, no weapons, no knives, no nothing. Or maybe there is a weapon involved. And then we have to define like, is it one-on-one or is it in a club? Is it in a bar? Because everything changed, everything is different. Okay, so I think the first thing I would try to do is to define that. What is the street, okay? The second thing I would try to understand is that, I mean, like, there's this Sport Jiu-Jitsu, which is the Jiu-Jitsu that we go to compete and we pull guard, we play De La Riva, we play Birimbolo, we pass the guard and this and that. This is one type of Jiu-Jitsu, which is the Sport Jiu-Jitsu. And then there's the self-defense Jiu-Jitsu, which is Jiu-Jitsu understanding that someone can attack us with punches and kicks and how should we behave regarding that. And then on top of that, you can do wrestling or judo, and you can do strike as well, which strike is not related to jiu-jitsu, but still related to martial arts, okay? So guys, I think like understanding which scenario of the street we are talking about and which scenario of jiu-jitsu you do, I think it's a very good starting point here in order to have this discussion, okay? And ignoring this scenario of the street, just talking about jiu-jitsu itself, what I would say here is, sometimes I see people saying like, oh, this sport jiu-jitsu doesn't work on the street, you know, like, oh, you cannot pull guard, you know, and I fully agree with that. You shouldn't pull guard on a street fight, but I also disagree that the sport jiu-jitsu doesn't work on the street. Because again, it depends against who, you know, like, if you do jiu-jitsu for 10 years, you never practice self-defense, you never practice striking, never did wrestling, and you're fighting against a person who has never done any martial arts in their life, you have a huge advantage, even though you just did sports jiu-jitsu. So if it's a one-on-one fight against a guy who has never done any martial arts before, even though you don't practice self-defense, I think you would have like a huge, massive advantage, and I think it would work. Even though like you're used about pulling guard, you shouldn't pull guard. So you should try taking down, like double leg or something like that. But you're used about fighting, you grapple every day and this and that. So to me, this is one level. Then, if you do jiu-jitsu and practice self-defense, that's a plus. So you should behave even better in those situations. That's my opinion, okay? And then, if you do jiu-jitsu, you practice self-defense, and you have some understanding of wrestling or judo, you have another plus, because now you have a much easier time to bring him down to the ground and do what you have the best, which is jiu-jitsu, right? And now comes the last phase here, which is you have some understanding of jiu-jitsu and you have some understanding about striking, like either Muay Thai or boxing or kickboxing. Guys, in my opinion, this is like the person who can defend himself the best on the street against all those scenarios is the guy who has some knowledge about jiu-jitsu, he practices self-defense with jiu-jitsu, and he has some understanding about striking, which is Muay Thai, boxing, and kickboxing. And why I'm saying that? I'm saying that because if you do understand self-defense for jiu-jitsu, you're gonna have a better understanding about like if many people try to attack you, if the guy has a knife, what should we do? Which is there's not a lot of things to do either, but you're gonna have a little better idea there. But if you know boxing and Muay Thai, now you don't have to rely only on taking that person down. You know, like you can also throw punches and kicks, and you're confident on what you're doing. So guys, this is kind of my opinion. I mean, like, I think it all depends which scenario you're going against. Because, for example, if you are a cop and you're asking if jiu-jitsu works on the street, I think it's really important that you really understand self-defense and jiu-jitsu, you know, like, because you cannot throw punches and kicks if you're an officer, and you should know how to use jiu-jitsu for self-defense. So this is a totally different scenario from a guy who just want to defend himself on the street. And even though this guy who just want to defend himself on the street, he also got to understand all those scenarios over here. Because if he's in a bar and fighting against a guy who has a bunch of friends, there's a chance that jiu-jitsu is not going to be enough. You might need some striking, either Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing. So guys, so that's kind of how I try to answer this question. And I love answering this question because I see this topic a lot on a lot of people's mouths. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents here. But yeah, anytime I think about jiu-jitsu as a self-defense, I always try to understand those 2 scenarios. Like, what is this street we are talking about? Is it one-on-one? One-on-one against a person who has a weapon? Or is it a fight on a bar or in a club that maybe this guy has a bunch of friends? And like, so we gotta try to understand this scenario. And now we gotta try to understand what is this jiu-jitsu that we are talking about. Is it only the sport jiu-jitsu? Is it jiu-jitsu plus self-defense? Is it jiu-jitsu with knowledge of wrestling and judo? Is it jiu-jitsu with some knowledge of MMA, which is like Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing? So, and then as much complete you get over here, I think better you're gonna do over there. But the other extreme of that is that it doesn't sound very good to me when I hear someone say like, oh, this guy only knows sport jiu-jitsu, so he cannot defend himself on the street. Of course he can. It depends against who, you know, like, okay, if he's going against a guy who has jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and kickboxing, he might be in trouble, you know, like, but if he's going against a guy who has never done any martial arts in his life and doesn't have any weapons, this sports jiu-jitsu might be enough, you know, like, because you're literally fighting every single day on the mats. Even though you're not fighting with that purpose, like of defending yourself, you're still fighting against humans. You're testing your body and this and that. So I don't think there's an easy answer to this question, but in my humble opinion, it is important to understand that there's levels of jiu-jitsu for the street. And I truly believe that every level works, sometimes better or worse than the other levels, and depends against who, you know, like. But again, if you're going against a guy has never done jiu-jitsu before, guy's out of shape, he's on the bar, drunk, I mean, like, sport jiu-jitsu might be enough, you know, like, you know how to defend yourself, you know, like, and the bar can always be dangerous because other people, bottles, and this and that, but one-on-one on the street, for example, you're on the beach or in the park and this guy tried to fight against you, he doesn't know any martial arts, you do know sports jiu-jitsu, I think you might do pretty good, you know, like, just because you have a huge advantage against him. But with that being said, if you have the opportunity to learn jiu-jitsu, also with self-defense, if you have the opportunity to learn throws, learn wrestling, learn judo, if you have the opportunity to learn some striking, learn Muay Thai, learn boxing, learn kickboxing, I think that's definitely the best way to do it. And in my opinion, the person who can defend himself the most, it is this guy who knows jiu-jitsu, who knows a little bit about throws, who understands self-defense, and who knows how to throw punches and kicks with some techniques like Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, and that. To me, this is the guy who can defend himself the best, you know, like. But we also got to put here in the table that we don't have too much time. Many times we're older, we have family and that. So how can we practice that all? So I think practicing sports jiu-jitsu is better than nothing for self-defense. If you have the opportunity to also do self-defense, this is better. If you have the opportunity to learn throws, this is better. If you have the opportunity to learn punch, this is even better. And etc. But guys, I hope that helped you. Maybe you do jiu-jitsu, maybe you don't, but I think it's definitely an interesting topic. And guys, if you do jiu-jitsu and if you're in the beginning phase of your jiu-jitsu, or even if you're looking to learn fundamentals, and make sure to check out my instructional videos at BJJ Fanatics. I have a series called Jiu-Jitsu for Old Guys that I literally go over every single subject in jiu-jitsu, and I try to cover focus for the older grapplers. And make sure to check that out. And also, if you're looking for a great apparel in jiu-jitsu, check it out, bjjsuperdeals.com. Hope you guys enjoyed and hope to see you in the next video. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.